Hey, welcome back to the Positive State Podcast. Glad you're tuning in, man. I keep talking about these Wednesday interviews and how jacked up I am every time I get them. And the most time I'm jacked up is when I know the people. I'm going to bring my guest, David Long, on here in just a minute, but I got to read this 5-star review real quick. I mean, again, hey, if you run over to iTunes, leave those 5-star reviews. It allows other people to find the show. This one here is from Megan. Much love, Megan. Says, great content. Jeremy does such a good job covering a variety of topics. His guests offer awesome advice as well. I would recommend this show to anyone looking to be inspired. Megan, mad love for you leaving that review. And really, that walks us into our guest today, David Long. Now, David and I, it's interesting. I got recommended to David by Paul Cummings. And it's been years and years ago. Paul's been on the show several times and, just a huge role model for me. And he's just an absolute amazing person and just all the love in the world. So, I'm going to ask you these questions coming towards the end, David, but one of the questions I was asked is, who do you know that I should know? And he said, David Long. And I'm like, damn, this guy's got to be good, Well, first of all, David, hey, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks. Glad to be here, Todd or Jeremy. I always call you by your last name whenever I'm talking to someone. I think I'll call you by your first name today.
Hey, that's cool, man. Hey, it's the old saying, just don't call me late for dinner, right?
Well, everybody calls me Long, so So that's just kind of how we do it out here.
I'm all good, brother. All good in the hood. It's interesting. The first time I met you, physically met you, was in Chicago at that event with David Goggins. And how cool is that? I know you went running with him that morning, which he is such a beast. But one of the things I really respect about you the most was, and I think I even told you this, I think I might have sent you a birthday message afterwards about how you brought your family there. I think you brought your son there to the event. And I just think that's so unique and such, not only is it a leadership move, because I think it's humbling. It shows that you're a family guy. It shows that you are real and authentic. Just briefly, and I know this is going to be, kind of a weird way to start a podcast, but talk a little bit about how you bring your family and why it's important to have your immediate family in business with you.
So it's interesting because growing up, my dad always went on business trips. I never knew where he went. Right? I thought he was in the CIA or something.
Yeah.
So when my girls were young, I'd bring them along with me, just because that was great quality time. And then my son came along, and my girls, of course, thought dad wasn't that smart anymore, and they wanted to hang out with their girlfriends. So my son Alexander has been traveling with me. I won't go do a speaking engagement unless it includes 2 tickets, one for me and one for him. I don't even take a factory trip if I can't take him. It's just how we do it.
Well, it's just so important, man. And that's that, again, it's just leadership. And it's not only leadership for you and within your family. It just shows other people that are in the industry that, this guy's doing it right. He's keeping the family, because, the old saying that, especially in the car business is hard on 2 things. It's wives and shoes, or families and shoes, but with you taking that family there, I just thought that was so cool. Now, again, you bet, brother. We're talking to David Long again. He's an automotive. If there was like a Hall of Fame for automotive guys, David Long would be a first ballot Hall of Famer, my friend. Yeah, but you're also the founder of the Pandemic of Positivity. And that's one of the things I really want to talk about today. With the world that we live in, especially, obviously you're out in California. It's a different world out there than it is in Texas and everywhere else. But, people are getting sick. People are dying. People are losing their jobs. And yet here you are, come out of nowhere with the Pandemic of Positivity. Why did you start that? And tell me a little bit about what you're doing and some of the movement that you're talking about.
So Jeremy, I'm happy to. So this is 2020 was not because of COVID difficult for me. So here's what happened in my world. I just want you to think about this for a minute. So we started the year, we had a cyber attack, closed us down, locked us down, couldn't do anything, could not open the company at all. Follow that up after we got the keys back to our kingdom and paid the ransom. Follow that up with 2 wildfires that just decimated the area. There were days, and I'm looking outside, I have windows all around me in my office. There were days where the air quality index was a 4.0 and ash was just falling out of the sky. Right. And it was so thick, I couldn't see from this store that I'm sitting in to the BMW store that it's only 100 yards away. I couldn't even see it. That's how much smoke there was. So you have the cyber attack. You have the 2 wildfires that really closed us down. Can't breathe the air. And then I have 5 deaths in my family in the year 2020. And through all that, the media and the election and Floyd and all the stuff that's happening. And I'm like, holy mackerel. Like everywhere I go, everything I look at, there's something heavy and sad. And then the pandemic and trying to keep my team members safe so they go home safe to their families and they come back safe to their work families. And I just had this epiphany, like, we got to start putting some energy into positivity. Like with all this stuff that's happening all around the world and in our small part of the world, like how do we make positivity, kindness, love, and compassion top of mind while all of this is swirling around? And that's how it was birthed. And then it just got real legs here in the last 18 days. I launched it, the website's up, and we had 2,000 people circulate through a Clubhouse room. Last week was our first Pandemic of Positivity call, and there are 2,000 people circulated through it. So what it tells me is that not just you, as much as you love positivity, but our country, our planet is really resonating with the Pandemic of Positivity right now.
Yeah, it's almost like that thing that's, and I was trying to represent, a good analogy is if you're going through the woods and times are tough, sometimes you got to climb that highest tree to see the far, to see where you're actually going, to get out of the BS, get out of the bullshit, and get out of that negativity and come to the positivity. And that's what I just love about it. Pandemic of Positivity. As soon as I saw you put that out, I'm like, man, this is a no-brainer at a perfect time, because in reality too, I think people are starting to come out of this negativity, and this is almost like supercharging them and supercharging their attitude. So you mentioned a little bit about the Clubhouse room. Who's in there? What are you doing? For people out there that want to, like, what's Clubhouse? How do I get into this? Because I need more positivity in my life. What do they do and how do they find you? And I'll talk a little bit about what's going on in that room.
Okay. So if you want to find the Pandemic of Positivity, you just go to pandemicofpositivity.com. There's a website. It tells you who's on the team. You can take the pledge, which just means you're going to pledge to be a little kinder. So if you're not that nice, just be a little nicer. If you're not that compassionate, be a little more compassionate.
Yeah.
And if you're having trouble being loving, just try to be a little more loving to the people you come in contact with. And you can take that pledge on the pandemicofpositivity.com. So that's one place to go kind of get filled up. Then there's a text group. If you want to get a little dose of positivity on your cell phone, no matter whether you're an Android or an Apple user, or if you have an old flip phone, all you have to do is text the number on the Pandemic of Positivity website. You'll get a daily dose of positivity. On top of that, there's a Facebook page, and there's an Instagram page, and there's a Twitter account for the Pandemic of Positivity. So if you're looking sort of for an eddy in a storm and a port where you can go and find some good uplifting content, that's where you'd go. Now, if you decided you want to invest some time in Clubhouse, you need to be an iPhone user, and you need to have an invite. I just so happen to have 12 extra invites. So if anybody that's a listener on your podcast, if they would like an invite, all they have to do is go to the Pandemic of Positivity, send me a message. My contact information is on it, or get my contact information from you, and I'll send them an invite so they can join Clubhouse and kind of get filled up. We have 3 rooms a week that all we do is aggregate people that are going to come on the show and talk about positivity. And tonight at 5:00 Pacific Standard Time, wow, we have a great lineup.
Well, like I said, I think it's just that perfect timing of getting this positivity out there. And what better combination, man? You got the Positive Side podcast, you got the Pandemic of Positivity. Man, if this isn't, what do you call that? Like, whatever, all the positive worlds come together, this is about the best possible situation you could ask for. One of the things I'm really excited about is, where do you see this going in the future? Obviously, right now, it's just ground floor. It's positivity. It's exciting. And, a side note is that since we're talking about this positivity, when you have all these people checking in on it, man, it's the butterfly effect too, right? I mean, it's people saying, hey, I've had a shitty morning, but I'm going to go to the Pandemic of Positivity and get that additional positivity and stop that negativity to where they can actually shine the positivity and take that to wherever they are going out in the world, whether it be their family, whether it be their job, whether it be the gym, whatever the case is. But that butterfly effect is real. Talking about a little bit more about that in the long term, where do you see the Pandemic of Positivity going in 6 months, a year? What does that look like, and how does that grow?
It's interesting you say or ask that question, because I had a strategy meeting with the team not too long ago, and then I had a coaching call this morning with someone. And by the way, all this happened at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we do all these strategy calls so that we can figure out where, to your point, it's going to go. And here's where today's call took it. It could be a great component for nonprofit, right? For people that are looking. So I have a nonprofit. It's called Help Along the Way. And what I do is help put limbs on people that can't afford to have prosthetics. I also do some things that help the communities, and I'm on the board of the Salvation Army and things like that. So, if there's enough people that want to just be kind, who knows how big this can get,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
I mean, let your imagination run wild. In other words, you don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's just so, real quick. And this is what I love about you, my friend. You just happen to just, hey, I already love you to death. All the things you're doing. Then you just mentioned it on a side note. Hey, I'm helping putting prosthetics on people. It's all those little things that you do that, it's like I told the vice president of our company the other day, and I said, you know what, I just want to thank you for all the things that I don't know you're doing, and I think that's so powerful because as leaders in organizations, we tend to do so many things for people that we don't need to. I don't need to break my arm, pat myself on the back, but it's little things like that you're doing that are making a huge impact that you don't have to go around and tell the whole world. So my friend, side note, I know there's a lot of other things you're doing as well, but I appreciate you, appreciate what you're doing.
Well, where that could take it, who knows? We could use that and help more people than you could even imagine.
100%. I can see almost like an event every year or every 6 months, a big event and speakers and just jacking people up and positivity and motivation. And again, that just, it's so important because, within the past year as well, that, depression rates are way up, suicide rates are way up. And this is a way to not only change lives for mentally for people, but man, it's also saving lives. I read this last week on my show. I had a young lady that reached out to me from just outside of Cleveland. And she said, hey, I actually attempted suicide 2 months ago, found the show, and it's given her light, and it's given her positivity, and it's given her direction. And that's the kind of stuff that I think positivity does. It's almost like it's almost like cliche too, because when you're walking around the positive guy, because I've been known as the positive guy for a long time, it's actually cool now, and I think it's and again, that's what ties in perfectly what you're doing with the the pandemic of positivity. When you start a group, walk me through a group. You jump in, and then who is there a speaker? Or how does that work? And do you have guest speakers? And are there specific
tonight
topics?
Tonight we have a couple guest speakers, and the topic for the room tonight is I think tonight's room's called Kindness Under Pressure. It could be a rock star ROK, which is return on kindness. So, but we do have two speakers tonight. And of course, my team does a lot of the contacts outside of my work, right? Because I'm busy, as we all are. But they found two amazing speakers for tonight that are just going to bring the heat and help us focus on how can we be more positive. And by the way, it's not really about just being positive. It's not about, okay, my life sucks, now I'm going to just act positive. It's about processing the feelings. It's about eradicating some of the bad thinking. It's about being kind to yourself. It's about self-help. Like my brother took his life in Cleveland. So when you, and mental health is a real thing. And so I don't subscribe to the fact that somebody can just decide to be positive and therefore they are then positive. I'm sure my brother would have chosen to be positive and continue to live if he thought that was a choice. Right. So there are steps that need to be taken. There's work that needs to be done, but there is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel if you put in the work. And that's where the pandemic of positivity all comes in.
Walk me through a day in your life. And obviously what I love talking about great leaders is, their routine. I'm just curious more than anything, what time do you get up in the morning? What is your, what do you do in the morning between the time you wake up to the time you clock in to the very end of the day? How do you bookend your day? And I guess talk a little bit about some of the strategy and maybe some of the things that you do, just so I love learning about people that do big things.
I do too. I love to ask people what their day looks like. So my day starts last night. Okay. And why I say my day starts last night is I don't know that probably the last 2 decades has not been a night when I've gone to bed without, and it's kind of bad. It's kind of old school, but I have these cards and I have the whole day written down half hour by half hour, exactly what I'm going to do. Now I could put electronically in my phone, and most of my, meetings like this are in my phone, but I know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow before I go to bed tonight. And the reason that I do that is I know for a fact that it gives me a lot of comfort and space in my mind when I don't have to wonder what's next.
Yeah.
Right. I know that I'm going to handle this, I'm going to handle that. But the way my day starts, I think is super cool because it changed my life. So I get up about 4:30.
All right.
And the first thing I do is I personally hit my knees and I just say, good morning. I'm just fired up to be alive.
Yeah.
And I have this real affinity for time. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of my memes, but time stands for today it might end. So it's the first thing I think about in the morning when I'm on my knees is today it might end. Get all you can get, move as many people as you can move, impact as many human beings as you can impact. So that's the first thing I do on my knees. Then I get my workout in. It's either a Peloton or some kind of a strength training. And then by 6:00, I'm on a coaching call. I'm either being coached or I'm coaching at 6:00 every single morning. And then I'm ready for the day. Let's go.
You mentioned I think coaching is extremely important. I think everyone should have a coach no matter what. So you mentioned you do have a coach that coaches you, right?
I have 2 and soon to be 3.
Yeah, I just think that's so important for people out there that are wondering, hey, how do I get to the next level in life? It's one of those. I love when I don't love it when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm good. I don't need that. I don't need whatever that is." But man, a coach changed my life. I had my first coach about 5 years ago now, and it completely changed my life. And I'm always having a coach, and I would encourage everybody out there listening to this podcast, hey, hire a coach. I mean, and not only that, spend money for a coach. Don't just say, hey, I got this guy coaching me. Spend money for a coach, because if you don't put your money where your mouth is, it's not real. It's fake. It's fake news. But yeah,
Right.
for real, yeah. Put your money where your mouth is. Okay, so you're rock and roll in the morning. What time do you shut her down at night? Then what do you do before you go to bed?
So I shut her down about 10:00.
Okay.
And I end the day on my knees. That's the way I've always done it. I mean, for the last 32.5 years, I've started my day like that. I've ended my day like that. But again, I make my list for the next day. I'm ready. I'm focused. I do a personal inventory. I kind of run through my day in my mind. Where did I have a chance to be kind and wasn't? What did I do that I maybe need to clean up tomorrow? Maybe I wasn't as kind or as generous as I could have been. And then I clean it up the next day, right? If I wasn't nice to you or didn't get back to you, or when I did get back to you, I didn't do it in a way that felt good. I'm going to reach out to you tomorrow and say, hey, Todd, I'm not proud of the way I responded to your request for whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just how I kind of govern my life.
Well, it's just being humble, right? I mean, it's understanding what's important out there is helping people out and changing lives and being positive, right?
And I wish I could say I'm always positive, but I'm an intense, competitive guy.
Sure.
When I step over that line to compete, I'm competing hard. I don't want anybody to mistake the fact that I have positivity, kindness, compassion, and love as my mantra. Yeah. It does not mean that I don't want to win and that I'm not going to work my fanny off to win and try to get everybody around me to do the same. Yeah, because I think you can do both.
Well, positivity is not a weakness. Positivity is 100% a strength. And it's funny when people try to take that as a weakness and, hey, you know what, I'll just beat your ass and I'll be really nice about it. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. I'm going to be a
positive winner.
Yeah, right? Exactly. That's the way I look at it. You bring me your best game and it's all good. I'm going to do it with a smile on my face. So it's that's super positive. I love how you said that. One of the books that I read is John Maxwell's book. It's Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I've read just about all of John, not all of them. John's got like 50 books, but Good Leaders Ask Great Questions is one of my favorite books of all time. And today, David Long, we're going to go over those 7 questions with you. I hope you're fired up. Hope you're jacked up. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Friend? Let's go. I don't know what they are, but I'm ready.
We're going to fire them at you, my friend. Question number 1 for David Long is, what is the greatest lesson you have ever learned?
The greatest lesson I've ever learned is don't underestimate the power that I have to impact people. I really believe that that's a lesson that I can, because I used to think that I didn't have a lot to offer, but I used to think that I didn't bring a lot to the table. And the more I see that I can impact people, the more I do impact people. So that's one of them.
And it's interesting that you say that too, because first thing that pops in my head is not just essentially, it's not just monetarily, it's mentally how you're going to impact people. I mean, if there's people out there listening, hey, that what could I offer somebody? What I don't have anything. I don't make a lot of money, but really the biggest impact you can make, by far, I think, is mentally making an impact on somebody, helping someone out, giving them some advice, picking up the phone. One of the favorite things I do, and I love this, and I tell every time this pops in my head, I always tell the story, is whenever I see someone on social media and they're a friend of mine and I have their number in my phone that says need prayers or having a tough day, I don't just like the like button. I don't comment on it. I pick up the phone and call, because that's the easiest thing you can do. And I always tell people too, that hey, when I pick up that phone, I tell them, hey, I've got 3 minutes. So I put that time limit on, because that phone call could go forever and ever and ever. However, when you tell somebody, you pick up the phone, you call up and say, hey, I've got 3 minutes, but I just want to ask you what's going on. How can I help? The impact, you can almost feel the stress levels off people, like rolling off their shoulders and rolling into the phone, and you can just hear it. And then they're also respectful of your time. Hey, I know you got to go, but I really appreciate that time. And man, the impact, when you're talking about that positivity, that butterfly effect, what that is doing for people is that's changing lives. And if that ever happens to anybody listening to this podcast, make sure you do that. Make sure you see that, make that little bit of impact, because mentally and verbally, you can make a huge impact on people. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Don't underestimate the power of little
Absolutely.
kindness. Yep.
Question number 2, what are you learning now?
So the biggest thing that I'm studying now is I call it an emotional pool. I believe that everybody's pool has a hole in it. An emotional pool, everybody has a hole. Now, what I really identified recently is everybody's hole is a different circumference. Some people have a 1-inch diameter hole, and some people have a 1-foot diameter hole. And it's my job as a leader to know how big the hole is, how to try to close the hole, and more importantly, how to keep the emotional pool filled. And I do that by helping people feel safe, but stretched.
Yeah. That's powerful, because at the same time, you got to, you don't want to make someone feel complacent, because a lot of times if you make someone feel complacent, and what you're talking about, using that analogy, that hole almost gets bigger. You get comfortable and you don't keep pushing, because what's going to close that hole is growing, getting better, getting challenged, getting out of your comfort zone and doing those things. What made you come up with that?
Noticing that when I was filling some people up, that some people required more than others, right? Some people, when you fill them up, it overflows. Some people, when you fill them up, it's a bottomless pit. And just knowing, right, that where's their responsibility start and where does mine end?
Yeah.
Right, because it's not my job to fix what God left out, right? It's their job to figure out how to sort that out. But what I do know for sure is everybody's fighting the best fight they can fight. And if I can be conscious enough and pay enough attention to know who needs what when, it's the opposite of the golden rule. Have you ever heard that?
No.
So I call it the platinum rule,
Jeremy.
The platinum rule is to do what you need, not do unto others as you would have done to you, but do for you what you need to have done for you, not what I want done for me. Yeah. Right? It's a big deal. It's a complete different mindset.
Yeah.
Like for me, I had coaches throwing stuff at me, hitting me, pushing me down, yelling at me, spitting on me, screaming at me. Like that's how I grew up being coached. Like if I coached you that way, I'd wind up in jail, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't even make sense. So if I treated you the way I was treated, or the way that I could be treated, you wouldn't stand for it. So that's what I learned. That's what I'm learning right now.
It goes back to that great quote: "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care." Right? I mean, that's one of the biggest things, and that's like the new leadership role, and it should be, and that's the way to lead people too. It's checking the ego at the door, telling people you care for them, and pour into them, help them out as much as you can. The more the old Jim Rome, the more people you help achieve their goals, the faster you're going to achieve yours. So obviously, very, very important. Question number 3 is: how has failure shaped your life?
So I call it failing faster. And I fail so fast. So have you ever heard of the Peter Principle?
No, lay it on me.
So the Peter Principle is being promoted past your point of competency. That's been me on every job I've ever said yes to. Yeah. I've always. So in other words, when I was a porter and became a salesperson, I was promoted past my point of competency and had to figure it out, and failed a lot while I was figuring it out. When I became a sales manager, I failed a lot, and I was promoted past my point of competency. I didn't know how to lead. I thought if I was going to do it like this, you should do it like that, right? So
Yeah.
it's almost like every time I take on a new role or a new, I try to tackle a new challenge, I fail more times than I succeed at it before it sinks in with me. Maybe I'm a hard learner or slow learner, but
Yeah.
that's how I do it.
Well, it's one of those things you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and I think as you fail, you become more comfortable being uncomfortable. Just go ahead and throw me in the position. I'll figure it out, but I got to get uncomfortable. And then I get, I'm okay being uncomfortable in the situation I'm in. And you're so right about that. Question number 4 for David Long is, David, who do you know that I should know?
Well, you may know them all, right?
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Kind of have the same circles. Do you know Damien Boudreau?
I do not.
So you talk about positivity. So he's the coach for the #1 salesperson in the world. The person that beat Joe Girard, he's his coach.
Mm.
And I am in the middle of putting a deal together to have him be my team's coach.
Oh, nice.
But he is probably one of the most positive people you could ever meet.
I'll need to get him on the show. If you could be so kind to send us an intro, that would be fantastic. All you have to do is
text me. I'll reply back with him on it. You would love
perfect.
Him.
Okay, yeah, I would love to get him on the show. Absolutely, it'd be the more positive people and excited, jacked up people we can have on the show, the better for everybody. Question number 5 is, what have you read that I should read?
Have you ever read, which is my favorite book, by Lou Tice? It's called A Better World, A Better You.
I have not. Better World, Better You.
Yep. It's a book that taught me more. It's just an amazing book.
Lou Tice.
Lou Tice has passed away about 10 years ago, but he owned the Pacific Institute. And,
okay.
Just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I've heard one of the blessings about this show is when I asked guests about what have you read that I should read? Man, my book list has got to be 4 or 5 miles long, and they're all just awesome books. I mean, right now I'm reading a book or listening to a book by Joe Dispenza, and I don't remember the name of it. I'm got it on Audible, which I think audiobooks for me is just the jam of all jams. I get so much more done with Audible books, and I listen to many podcasts. But that's I'll definitely, it's on my list for sure. Question number 6 is, what have you done that I should do?
Have a grandchild.
I better not have a grandchild. I've got it. As my daughter walks by, she's 11 years old. It better be a long ass time for that to happen, my friend.
So this month we had our first grandchild, and you talk about brother. Joy and oh my gosh. So
I had a friend of mine just had his first grandchild, and I proposed this question to him, and I just get curious about your mindset. We all have these titles through our life, whether we're son or brother, we're all of a sudden now we're mother or father, and then all of a sudden this next step, this new title that you have is grandfather. What does that mean? How does that feel? Does it feel like, oh my gosh, I'm old enough to have a grandchild now? Is it, this is the next layer of my life? This is the next step in my life? Like what goes through your head when you think about that?
So because of my affinity for time, what goes through my head is if I live to be the average age of man, Jeremy, I have about 8,000 days left to love on that grandchild.
Absolutely.
It's pretty impactful, right? When you think about it that way. Absolutely. So when people talk about, oh my God, you're a grandfather, you're old, and it's a privilege denied to most. My parents didn't live past 50.
Yeah.
So when I think about the fact, and they never got a chance to see their grandkids, not only do I get to see them, but I'm financially in a position to be able to do for him what was never done for me. And that's what I recommend is be a grandfather.
All right, my friend. Well, I'll take your word. My oldest boy is 14. If he tells me in the next, I don't even want to put that time frame on it, but let's just say I don't want it to be anytime soon. That's for damn sure.
Okay, fair enough.
Question number 7, the final one for David Long is, David, this is very important to me, and I'm curious about this, but how can I add value to you? You've got 10,000 things going on. How can I add value to you, my friend?
So, push out the pandemic positivity, right? Get top of mind awareness on compassion, kindness, and love. Keep doing what Jeremy Todd does. You're such a kind person. You already wrote a book about it. You're having me on to talk about it. I mean,
Heck yeah.
Holy mackerel, you're helping me leverage that in a way that I probably couldn't have gotten just on a single phone call. So you're doing it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, my friend, because it's important, man. This message of positivity, it's something that I started with years and years ago. When I started the podcast was 4 years ago, and originally it was going to be the positive side of the car business. And obviously we need that side of the car of that business. But then my coach said, Jeremy, why don't you just do the positive side? That way you can have the positive side of life, health, business, family, motivation. And it's not just captured into the car business, which is important. It's been very, very good to me for a long, long time. But man, the positive side and the pandemic of positivity, man, we're built for each other, brother.
We're match made in heaven.
Absolutely.
Sure.
David, last thing, my friend, where can tell the entire galaxy where they can find you?
So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, MySpace, and a couple other social medias that I stalk because I have kids. But you can email me or call me through Pandemic Positivity. There's a text number there. My cell phone's in my bio on all of my profiles. And if I can ever add value to anybody that's listening, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I'll have in the show notes, have all the ways to get a hold of you also too. My friend, like I said, I know you're crazy busy, last day of the month. And it means so much to me that you spent this little bit of time with me, because as you mentioned, time is so, so important. It's important to you. It's important to me. It's probably the most important thing in my life is time, because we just can't get it back. Right. And that's why I want to take advantage of every single second that I got. So everybody, once again, check out David Long, check out the Pandemic for Positivity everywhere. Like it on Facebook, check out the website, go to the Clubhouse, check everything you possibly can with that, and then share the messages, get involved. I need to be more involved. That's one thing I need to be more involved. So
we need you.
I'm in, my friend. I'm going to be way more involved. I promise. I'll give you my word. I'm in for sure. Hey, real quick, everybody out there listening too, man, I got the apparel coming. I got the hats. I met a shirt guy today. I'm going to put that stuff out when you're watching this podcast. It'll be out. It'll be ready to rock. So run over there. It's going to have motivational quotes in the back of it. I actually got some really nice quality t-shirts too. Could be some badass messages on the back. And it's just a way to share that positivity. Check that out on the Facebook page, and email me like always, jeremy@jeremytodd.com. Reach out, leave those reviews. Much love, mad love for you spending time listening to this. Share the message. I say it in every single episode. You've got greatness within. Like always, this is the positive side.